Chris, because people probably didn't hear you on Finance Junkies a couple of days ago. When are you planning to get back into Palantir, if ever? What are your preconditions?
9, 10. When it drops back down to 9, 10, I'm a buyer again. I think the company's got long prospect to go, but they're overvalued right now based on the macro, because we're in such a high macro environment that they have to perform absolutely perfectly to justify their overvaluation, because right now they're worth $35 billion with revenue that's slowing down significantly. So if they don't live up to their revenues that they've been promising, the stock price will get shellacked, and it'll just be an opportunity to buy shares at a lower price. So
read my article, Chris. Read my article about valuation.
I haven't read it yet. I have to read it.
Dom, what's your counter on the valuation point?
Yeah. So high price to sales. What does that tell you? It tells you sentiment. It tells you the belief in a company, right? So mix that with RSI and a couple other indicators. It tells you there's a full belief of what's possible, right? What I'm looking at with the company is what kind of problems are they solving? Are they solving the hardest problems that are out there in the world that no one else can solve? Check. Are they retaining? And I'm actually going to write a very big article on this, on why I'm excited about their SBC. And you guys, I may get so much hate right now. You probably defollow me on Twitter. I am so excited about their SBC being still high, because what is it doing? It's keeping their top talent there, especially as the price is going up higher in the stock. They have to make sure their top engineers get paid. So Microsoft, Google, Facebook, all these people who have billions of dollars to throw at people, don't get them to leave, because they have a product that no one else has. They're solving problems that no one has. So the impact keeps scaling and scaling and scaling. You look at what they're doing with Air Matrix. You look at what they're doing with Concordance Healthcare. They are now in 10% of all hospitals in North America. Let that sink in. We're talking about a conversation we had 2-3 years ago. We're talking about they need scale, they need to get into industries. 10% of all medical beds are managed within Palantir because of their HCA deal. So, like, I want them to keep the top talent, execute on the vision. To one of the people's point in there, I want to see continued customer growth, and I want to make sure to see more contribution margin continuing to grow. If you look at their revenue obligations in the 10K, they did have less revenue obligations. They have 936 million in the article. Once again, selfless plug. It's opposed to 1.2 billion, but they're actually going to recognize 57% of that within this year, opposed to where they were only recognizing like 40% previously. So we're starting to see the revenue recognition actually going to be applied in the earnings, which is really good, because that means projects are completing, value is being realized. If I had to sum up Palantir in like 2 words of what I want to make sure is always happening, it's value realization. Best company that I've seen in software in the world around value realization.
Yeah, Chris, I don't think people. So before Chris gets, because I know Chris is ready to attack.
Yeah, I know he's ready.
He's like, you didn't say shit about the valuation. You're talking about all this beautiful philosophy about Palantir. I'm ready to go to numbers.
So you had this great gross profit margin hovering between 78 to 82%. That has yet to waver, right? And I think now we're getting to the place where we just hit net profitability from a GAAP perspective. If you continue to add to the revenue, yes, there's going to be increased SG&A costs. There's going to be continued increases overall, but I don't think that that will grow faster than the revenue will grow. I think that that'll grow at a much slower pace. And I think there's been evidence of that when you compare how much the cost of infrastructure and cost of SG&A has gone up for Snowflake versus it has for Palantir for the same kind of percentage growth rate. So I think what you're going to see is exactly what you said, Dom. Say we go up another $1 billion in earnings, it's probably going to equate to another $500 million. Sorry. Say we go up $1 billion in revenue, it's probably going to end up equating to another $500 million, 600 million in net earnings, and it's only going to get exponentially greater from there. Right? I think
it's exponential because of the value realization as customers come online. Keep in mind, you always got to remember the business model: acquire, expand, scale. It's the scale part is when you see the cha-ching. And so you're now starting to see that with customers, and that's why you're seeing their revenue obligations. So to Chris's point on valuation, yeah, They're trading at a forward PE now of 78 and a price to sales of like 18. But can they consistently grow at 15 to 20% for the next 10 years? Most definitely, guaranteed. What companies other than the big Magnificent Seven and others can bet on that and have the financial health that Palantir has to ensure that happens? There's not many. And that goes back to the problems they're solving. That's why I care about like the case studies and the proven value realization, the 28% time savings on every patient per bed in their most recent healthcare study. That's how you get a CEO to stay with you for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Okay. Chris, is it still overvalued after you hearing all that?
I mean,
it's only overvalued if you're trading now. Do you want your money now, or can you hold this stock for 10 years?
No, I think it's more so a question of, is buying at 16 decent if you could buy it at 9? That's the question to Chris. Is it still going back to 9 after you hear everything?
Not considering that there's so many other opportunities in the market that are way better in terms of total return. So no, I don't think Palantir is the greatest investment at this time.
But total return in what time horizon?
Yeah, that's what I was just about.
Even I would say probably like 5
10 years. Who's better?
Years.
Who's a better return value from this point on? 10 years. Give me a stock that returns better.
Snowflake, easily. Easily. I mean, y'all wanted an answer. I gave you it.
But going to the specific point about Dom, about like the scale model and solving the hardest problems in the world, do you still think, Chris, that plays no weight in terms of numbers right now at all?
I mean, all that stuff is semantics. I'll wait until the numbers come out. I mean, you got a guy who's saying we'll grow 30% year over year for the next 5 years. Okay. Was your last quarter growth rate 17? Half of that? The year quarter before that, 18? Even lower? You know what I mean? So if you can't live up to your own numbers, Palantir, come on, brah. Come on. Not to mention, you got a lot of macro headwinds coming your way in the next couple of years. SaaS spending isn't exactly like on the high line of where people want to be right now, and you can see that.
I don't want to attack you too hard, Chris, but what is Snowflake anticipating their 2023 revenue growth will be?
45%.
I thought that they were going to remain flat for the remaining 2 quarters. I thought that's what they were predicting
for this for 2022.
They're growing, yeah, and they're growing at 45% last quarter. So
it's just that they traded at 24 times price of sales. So I think that's the real
right. And they're but that's what I'm trying to say. That right now they have still a higher percentage growth rate.
So basically, the thing is, you believe that they can continue that growth rate consistently more than what Palantir can grow, and with better earnings.
Yeah, I think there's some hidden jewels among Palantir. I mean, among Snowflake that not too many people are valuing right now. Their Snowpark product just came out, which has been a major hit from everyone that I've been speaking to. They also have a lot of investments in their VC fund with double-digit growth in, and actually some of them are triple-digit growth because they specifically focus on AI-related software offerings. So I think SoFi. I mean, I think Snowflake is going to do well. Sorry, this is where podcast confused. Yeah,
this is where I think Chris is right about the numbers, just the bare bones. But this is where I think it's not the time to think about the numbers. I think it's time to really think qualitatively. The stuff Dom is saying about 10% of hospital beds in America. That's a big deal to me. And then if you go deep into the healthcare sector, yes, I know we're kind of speaking abstractly about could they control this $4 trillion healthcare market, but that's where I want to be thinking at this point. Not saying that should be the only decision-making criteria, but that's important to me right now versus just the numbers. Because if we're right on even a couple of those industries expanding massively, customer count goes out the wazoo, and then this becomes that situation where forget 16, forget 17, like those days are behind us. We're not going back to 9 or 10 anymore. But if the growth sucks Q2, we're back there. And so it's really black and white.
Guy Austin knows the company really well.
Yeah, Austin's great.
Bad shout out. He said Palantir's growth is nonlinear due to their go-to-market strategy. First phase has negative contribution margin, correct. And then huge profits in the scale phase. Prolonged opportunity to acquire shares for savvy investors. Correct. If we were bolder in our investments when this thing was at 6 and 7, which we were all buying, but we weren't like loading every single thing in the truck because we were thinking, it could go to 4 or 5.
Yep. All of us.
But the real reality is at 6 or 7, even if it went to 4 or 5, you were getting in. I mean, I don't even know if it gets back to 6 or 7 again for a very long time. unless something.
I don't think it'll ever get back. I don't think it gets back to 6 or 7 ever.
Yeah.
I do think that, however, a better pricing for their stock at the current rate of and the current macro is probably be 8, 9. That's fair value, and for me anyway. But then again, like my perspective is different than other people. But by the way, I am not buying Snowflake right now either. I think fair market for Snowflake is probably like 130 to 150. If it drops down to 130, 150, I'm a Snowflake buyer. For sure, I'm a buyer.
You're basically your strategy is definitely timing at the lowest price possible, like timing the market.
Absolutely,
basically.
absolutely. And at the same time,
So highly involved in technical analysis.
But also, there's something to say about missing opportunities and other things. Like, I'm happy for everyone who held SoFi. I mean, I keep getting fucking. I gotta calm down.
Kick him off the podcast.
I totally like the fact that people are making money right now with Palantir, riding from $9 all the way to 16. I rode that with you guys. I sold out at like 15.45, right? So the thing is, though, what did I do with that money? I deployed it in other places where I thought was a much higher return, which actually has panned out for me. Not everyone is, willing or capable of doing that, nor do they want to take that risk. But I saw an opportunity and I took it. Right now, your guys' investing philosophy is I am going to buy a company. I'm going to hold it for a long period of time, and eventually it's going to play out my thesis. Right now, my thing is I'm in the same boat as you guys to a certain degree, but I'm also willing to jump out of the company that I think is a lot more speculative and jump into the company that I know can perform. And all they're doing is having to revert back to their mean again. And I'm going to be making a disproportionate amount of money in the meantime.
Momentum investing, which there's a lot of professional investors who have made huge names for themselves in doing this. So it's not to say that cannot work for people by far. Yeah. I don't have the time or the research enough to follow enough companies. Like I'm proud of myself. I went from 100 companies down to 40. I'm gonna get that bad boy down to like 15.